Now here's your host, Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage.
Oh, yeah!
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports and Metal Podcast. We are your hosts. This is Aaron Savage. With me, as always, my partner in crime, Mr. Jason Voorhees. What's up, Jay?
What is up, buddy?
Not much, man.
Yeah.
What's going on? I mean, it's been an eventful week, to say the least. First and foremost, I want to thank our sponsor, At La Terrain Watches. You can visit their website, www.la-touraine.com. Use our promo code SNM. That's the letters SNM, and get 10% off your purchase of their beautiful watches. You don't want to miss that opportunity. They're beautiful watches, handcrafted. Use our promo code SNM. You're going to get 10% off. And before we go any further into the show, dude, we'd be remiss if we didn't mention the near tragedy that almost took place this past week for Judas Priest guitarist Richie Faulkner, only 41 years old. What was that show they were playing the other day? But he had what's called an aortic aneurysm. So basically blood was leaking into his chest cavity while he was on stage. And he finished the show. There's video of him playing Painkiller while this is going on, note for note, doesn't miss a beat. He was rushed to the hospital. At the hospital, they told him most people don't even make it to the hospital before they die from this. He had emergency open heart surgery. They put like some mechanical devices in his chest. He said he was given emergency heart surgery at the hospital where parts of his chest were replaced with mechanical components. He said, "I'm literally made of metal now." Oh, how metal is that? Judas Priest, the gods of metal. Richie Faulkner is now made of metal, hence the episode's title. But anyway, we're wishing our well wishes to Richie Faulkner. Get well soon, and thank God that a tragedy was averted in this situation. That was crazy. But anyway, dude, another
Thanks for
thing.
checking in, Adam.
Yes, thanks for checking in. Another thing big this week: Tom Brady returned to New England.
Yeah. Oh, I was waiting for this moment. You know me. In years past, I was a Brady hater, but I got to be honest with you. There's no way you can hate Brady. I mean, he is the GOAT of all GOATs. I mean, this guy, what he's done is absolutely you can't compare to it in any sport. I mean, the way that he's just continually, won these rings. And then obviously he goes to another team, Tampa Bay, wins the Super Bowl.
Yeah, winning the Super Bowl his first year in Tampa Bay. We've talked about it on the show before, but I mean, what a statement that was, because you always heard the whispers, was it Brady or was it Belichick? Obviously they're both great at what they do. You talk about maybe the greatest coach of all time, maybe the greatest quarterback of all time, although clearly the greatest quarterback of all time, I think we'd have to all say now. But Brady going away from New England and winning a Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, that was just huge for him to get out of the shadow of Bill Belichick. So any of the haters that would have whispered, "Oh, well, he's a system quarterback. It's all Bill Belichick." Well, out the window. What I want to know, Jay, when he comes back to New England this past week, Monday Night Football, or was it Sunday night? I'm drawing a blank.
It was Sunday night.
It was Sunday night. Yeah, sorry. Moot point. Anyway, but long story short of it all, it was Sunday night. Long story short of it all, he breaks Drew Brees' all-time passing record in New England. How poetic is that? How poetic. His second year away from the team. How did the football gods line that up? That would happen, that when he happens to go back to New England, that's when he breaks the all-time passing yards record. And the thing is, I want to know your thoughts on this. When Drew Brees, I said touchdown, I think. I was talking about all-time passing yards record. When Drew Brees broke the all-time passing yards record in New Orleans at home, they stopped the game. They had a big to-do about it, a big ceremony in the middle of the game. Now, I understand Brady's a visiting player, but I mean, when you think of what he's done for New England, I mean, he put that franchise on the map. When we grew up, nobody was talking about the Patriots until Tom Brady got there. So do you think it was out of line, or was it wrong, or was it insulting that they didn't give him the same treatment that Drew Brees got when he broke the all-time passing yards record, even though Brady was a visiting player? What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, yeah, I would say so. I mean, the guy played his heart out for that city and that team. And to me, he's the ultimate competitor. I mean, the guy trains harder than 99% of athletes. I mean, it's well documented, his training regimens and what he, the amount of time that he spends preparing, not only for, physically, but mentally for the games. And to come back, yes, I get it. He's the visitor and he's the enemy now. But yeah, I do think it's a little bit insulting.
Yeah, I just think they would have done a little bit more. I mean, or you could make the argument maybe the Saints did too much for Brees because, I mean, the record has been cheapened in a sense. It's like every couple of years somebody's breaking the all-time passing yardage record. And now with the 17-game season, Pat Mahomes is going to own that record, I'm sure. I
was going to kind of say that it's kind of cheapened in the sense that it's become a passing league. And it's not. You're not just seeing it with with obviously with the touchdowns, the yards. You're going to see it with every pretty much quarterback, record. It's just going to continually get broken by the next guy because, obviously, you have other, players that kind of like if they stay healthy and they're able to, continue their career. I mean, you got a guy like Matt Stafford who's 33, I believe 33 years old. I mean, he throws, every year, and now he's on a great offense with the Rams. I mean, who knows what's going to happen? But yeah, I definitely think, it's somewhat cheapened, but it's still a tremendous accomplishment.
Oh, it's still a tremendous accomplishment. I mean, obviously, I'm talking out of my ass. But I'm more just like, in light of the offensive juice numbers in the NFL, did the Saints overreact to Brees' record, knowing that it would probably be broken a year later? Or did the Patriots do Brady dirty? It's up for debate.
Well, what are your thoughts, on the way that the game, transpired? And what do you think this says? Obviously, I know it's only one game, but the fact that, obviously, it was kind of bragging rights between, the fact.
Well, you already heard my opinion. You already heard my opinion. I think bragging rights all go to Brady, even before this game. Like I said, since Brady left New England, the Patriots have not been a good football team. They've not been a good football team. They've been a bad bottom half of the league team. They bring in Cam Newton, which I think it's made a lot of people scratch their heads. He just was the total opposite of Tom Brady. They didn't have success. Then when you think he's going to be the starter, at the last second they release him and make Mac Jones the starter, who they just drafted. I mean, Mac Jones has been okay, but I mean, he's the definition of check down Charlie. Let's be honest here. And, but the bottom line is the Patriots haven't done anything exciting since Brady left. They haven't won. They haven't shown a big improvement from last year to this. What are they, 1-3 again? Whereas Brady just left and made the team he's on the best team in football. And he's doing it again this year. And then he goes into New England, and then he beats them. And what I did take from this game it has nothing to do with bragging rights, but just something very interesting that I took from it. I loved Brady's comments after the game because it was like allowing to hear a different perspective. Brady spent all those years playing as the home player in New England. Oh, hold on. I got a technical difficulty here. Oh, so sorry about that. Brady spent all those years as, the home player in New England. And now him coming in as the road player, he said, the foghorns were distracting. He used to not hear them. And the way the weather was, and it was a whole different experience for him. And I thought it was interesting to hear Brady appreciate what the players coming into New England all these years have had to deal with, as far as the big crowds that have been there, the weather that they've had to deal with, and everything along those lines. So I just thought that was something that was an interesting takeaway to hear Brady's perspective as a visiting player.
Yeah, I mean, where I stand. And like I said, I was previously a hater. And, I remember I used to even tell you, Brady's a systems quarterback, which he was. But you know what? Who cares? The bottom line is, like, I'm at the point now where I'd rather have a team that wins and a quarterback. To me, stats go out the window. I want a Super Bowl, and the guy has, 7. So, I mean,
there's nothing more you could say. I mean,
exactly. I mean, But I previously have been in arguments with people that continue to say that the only reason that New England was that good was Belichick. And I think you just hit it on the head. Like, it's a fact now when Brady goes to another team and they not only win a Super Bowl, but his previous team can't seem to, get their head out of their ass. So to me, it's obvious that Brady was the reason for, most of their success. I mean, yes, they had other good players and they had good defenses and they had good systems, but Brady, there's no stopping the guy. And I'll never bet
We've talked about it. He's the
I mean, he could play till I wouldn't be surprised now if he plays till he's 50.
He's talking about it. He's the Julio Franco of the NFL.
It's absolutely mind-boggling.
It's crazy.
How great he is.
It's insane, bro. He's on another level, another planet. Anyway, moving on. MLB playoffs in full effect. I know Jay and I, 2 nights ago, you and I were both ecstatic to see the Yankees eliminated. The Skankies, the Yankees, whatever you want to call them. But they're out. Bye. We hate you, Yankees. Out. So
sorry if we offend any of our listeners.
Yep. And it was just even more sweet seeing the terrible, terrible play when it was a 3-1 ball game and Mike Stanton hit the ball off the monster, and they would have had first and third, which you could argue maybe should they have second and third, but Stanton stands there and admires his shots. So they would have had first and third, 1 out. Instead, for God knows what reason, they send Judge when he would have been a third with 1 out. The momentum was swinging in their favor. They send him. He's out by 10 feet. Now there's 2 outs, runner on first. Rest is history. Yankees lost, 6-3. So they're done. And then on another note, I know you wanted to ask me my World Series favorite. Who do I think is going to win the World Series? So here's my opportunity. I'll tell you, because what I was going to say was if the Dodgers advanced last night in their wild card game, they're my pick to win the World Series. And guess what? The Dodgers did. What a great game that was, dude. A 1-1 game into the bottom of the 9th. Chris Taylor for the Dodgers hits the 2-run bomb. They walk it off. Bro, it's amazing. It's amazing how good the Giants and Dodgers have been this season. And you know what? An interesting thing is they both won 106, 107 games respectively. Giants, I think, won 107. Dodgers won 106. A lot of people are using that as an argument. Well, I don't like the 1-game playoff, blah, blah, blah. But you know what, dude? How often do you have 2 teams in a division with those records? The answer is never, because it's never happened before. You've never had 2 teams with that grid of record in the same division. So it's an anomaly. It's not the norm. And it doesn't change the fact that the current setup, forcing the wild card teams to play this 1-game play-in, brings value back to winning the division, which when there was 1 wild card had been lost because teams used to be able to purposely tank to not win the division, knowing that they had a playoff spot locked up to choose possibly who they played in the playoffs. That option's not there. You don't win the division, you're playing a 1-game elimination game. And you know what? The Dodgers, who you can make any argument deserve to win any division, how good they are, had the Giants not been in their division, stepped up to the plate. They won the game they needed to win. They move on. And now the thing I think is super exciting is we get to see the Giants and the Dodgers in a National League Division Series, a rivalry that dates back into the 1800s when they were in Brooklyn and New York, respectively. This is fucking exciting, and this is what baseball's made for. This is what I'm looking forward to, bro.
Yeah, well, it's funny. It's funny that you say that because to me, I think it would be cooler if it was actually if they were meeting in the NLCS.
I know, but this is the way it lined up. I'm not going to complain. Yes,
but,
you make a good point.
So you kind of gave a spoiler alert, but kind of in a way. But my World Series pick is actually the Giants.
Okay, so here we go.
I'm going
our World Series now. The NLDS Giants Dodgers is the Sports and Metal World Series right here.
And the only reason I say that is they were very successful head-to-head. I mean, obviously it was close. But the Dodgers, to me, I have a feeling not that they're good, not a good team. I mean, obviously they're the most talented team in the last – I mean, every year they just seem to keep getting better and better. I mean, obviously they got Scherzer. But I just have one – a lot of times in these things, I go with hunches, and I just get this feeling with the Giants where I kept saying the Giants are going to shit the bed. They're going to shit the bed down the stretch, and they never shit the bed, dude. I mean, this team is legit. And honestly, I obviously being a Phillies fan and bashing and trashing Gabe Kapler just 2 years ago.
Here he is.
To see what he's done with this team. And you could call it what it is, and you could say, oh, well, he has a better roster. But he's still done something, or this team wouldn't be where they're at. He's obviously pulling the right strings. He's obviously doing something right. So to me, that's an absolute amazing accomplishment to go from the Phillies, who were like a last place team, to a team that has a shot at winning the World Series. I mean, in a matter of 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it says, man. I mean, this is a guy that they wanted to run out of town in Philly, Mr. Analytics, and he's doing it all out there. I mean, sometimes it's like lightning in a bottle. I mean, I don't think anybody would have predicted the Giants would have been this good anyway. It's not like they have like this roster that like, whoa, going into the season. You know, that would have been the Padres maybe. Obviously the Dodgers. I mean, what the Dodgers do is insane. They're like the new Yankees, bro. I haven't developed kind of hatred for them yet as I did for the Yankees, but they are the Yankees.
Yeah, but to your point, that's another reason why you and I love baseball. Because it doesn't have to be the best team on paper that wins. And a lot of times it's not.
Yeah.
So that's why I think that we're attracted to baseball, because I'm not saying that it doesn't happen in football, Cinderella stories. I mean, it does happen, and it happens in the other sports, but you don't see it near as much. Like basketball,
no, not like that.
Basketball, 9 times out of 10, you know the top 4 teams that are going to the finals.
Oh,
Yeah. Maybe
the regular
maybe
season means nothing in basketball.
Yeah, and maybe once in like 25 years, you'll have, this team that just, oh my God, they're a Cinderella team. But in baseball, it happens year after year. And that's what I'm saying about this Giants team. I'm just getting this vibe that it's their year. Now, like I said, it's definitely going to be them or the Dodgers. So I think whoever wins this series wins the World Series. So if I'm wrong about the Giants and the Dodgers end up winning, then they will win the World Series.
Well,
and that's not a knock on the other teams, and that's not a knock on the American League. But I just think that, the talent level, and I just like the National League. I do. I mean, obviously, we all, our teams are in the National League. So,
I'm not being biased. I just really believe the Dodgers are going to win it. But kind of like adding to your point about how you can get these Cinderella teams in baseball, kind of goes back to what I was saying, how I love this new wild card setup, because it brought you have 2 options. Either don't have a wild card, which obviously there's too many teams now for that. You can't just have, 4 division winners, because it's just the way the game is now with all these teams and the money that's involved with cable television and stuff. It wouldn't work. You need more playoff teams. But having the 1 wild card made it where there was no value to winning the division. So it made it more of that crapshoot, as far as like, I don't know. Maybe I'm using the wrong word, but I think what you're talking about here is the regular season means so much in baseball. In the NBA, the regular season doesn't mean anything. You could basically just start watching the NBA when the playoffs start, and you know what the best teams are going in. Baseball's not like that. That's 162-game grind means something, and having this second wild card, which brings the value back to winning the division, makes those 162 games mean something. You know what I'm saying? And again, you're not always going to see 205, 106, 107 win teams in the same division. This time you did. So the Dodgers, unfortunately for them, with 106 wins, had to play a 1-game play-in. But they stepped up and they won that game. And I think that's fucking awesome. And then you have the Giants, who are that Cinderella team in a sense. And they earned it over 162 games. So, yeah, that's honestly baseball from other sports to me.
Oh, yeah, and you're spot on. Like, it definitely is a better format the way with this new system. I love it. And down the stretch, even, like, I thought that there was just more teams, vying for a playoff spot. You know what I'm saying? Like, it seemed like it kind of just brought more energy to the diamond. And, on a daily basis, like, there was a lot more people, kind of, getting excited about their teams. I mean, look at even Seattle. I mean, Seattle came down the stretch. They almost made it in. Like, they were like way out, going into like the last,
well,
month.
that's the beauty of that 162 game season. I mean, there's ebbs and flows. Look, okay, we talk about my Mets. They were in first place for 103 games.
I know.
103
a record,
days.
right? They set a record.
Finished under 500. The longest a team ever spent in first place to finish under 500. You don't know. It's a 162 game season. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And, here's where we are. So we'll see who wins the World Series. Dodgers are my pick. You got the Giants. Big news this week in the rock and roll. Oh, wait. I forgot. We were going to get into this for a minute. Trevor Bauer, The Bauer outage was real. That's what he calls himself on social media, Bauer outage. The Bauer outage was real. We didn't see this guy for months since the Dodgers put him on an administrative leave while he's being investigated for sexual assault, for punching a woman in the face, like breaking bones in her face, giving her black and blues. Terrible stuff, this guy. So now, the typical egocentric SOB he is,
gotta be a bad
when the Dodgers are in the playoffs, now he comes back on social media saying, oh, you know, one of the cases against me was thrown out. That speaks for itself. But now we're going to talk baseball content. Clearly, this is just a ploy because he hasn't been getting attention and he wants attention. And now that the Dodgers are in the playoffs, he wants to steal the attention from this team. And the Dodgers, I feel terrible for them. I mean, they made a huge mistake signing this guy. They paid him $100 million for 3 years or whatever it is to sign this jerk. Then, because of what he did, they had to trade for Max Scherzer, so they're paying him millions of dollars to replace Trevor Bauer. And then they cut ties with him the whole season, put him on administrative leave, have not mentioned a word about this guy, doing their own thing. They get to the playoffs, here comes Trevor Bauer. Unbelievable, this guy. He's a clown.
Yeah. I mean, it's typical entitled, spoiled athlete, and not just an athlete. He's just a bad guy. I mean, you and I have talked about this on previous shows. Trevor Bauer is just not a good person. And you could just tell. And you know what? This isn't just, two guys on a podcast that are hating. This is just an asshole. The guy, and this is a dick move. You're right. Like, it's selfish. It's self-centered. It's egotistical. I mean, we could use 100 words to describe it. But the guy, I mean, it's just like, okay, I thought he was, getting his, shit in order, and I thought he was actually behaving. And, come to find out, he just couldn't keep his mouth shut. So, it's kind of frustrating when you see guys like this. But I guess my hope is that, everything, obviously due process has it's that, and he has his day in court. But the bottom line is I don't see this guy coming back. Like, honestly, I mean, I think he could be in jail. In prison.
Oh, yeah, I think there's a good chance. I don't see him coming back either. I just think it's just typical. He's an egocentric guy. He's a me-first guy. Everything about him is me first, and it's just no coincidence that he decided now to come out of the woodwork on social media after months. I mean,
remember, wasn't it last year when he threw the ball from the pitcher's mound to the over the center field or something? Like, he's just out of control. Like, I mean, I don't want to get into that kind of side of things, but it's just it's mind-boggling to me. But you know what? Kudos to the Dodgers, because how many teams could actually do what they did and go out and get a guy like Max Scherzer, like when this happened? Because I don't think if they don't get Max Scherzer, they might not make the playoffs. It's that.
Well, that's what I was saying before. The Dodgers are like the Yankees now, dude. How many teams are developing the young talent that they have, but then keeping that talent while bringing in all this expensive talent from the outside? Dude, think about it. You're still paying Clayton Kershaw how much money? Then you have Bauer on your payroll. Then you trade for Max Scherzer. He's on your payroll. Then you got this young guy, Urias, who won 20 games. Stud, by the way. But then look at your offensive side. You have
Seager,
Bellinger, Seager. The guy that who he came over with Scherzer. Why am I forgetting his name? He's an MVP candidate.
Well, he's a free, but I'm saying
who am I talking about? Say his name. Trey Turner. Why am I forgetting his damn name? But they're loaded with talent, and it's like it's not like a team that they're going to let guys walk unless they want them to. They can afford anybody they want. It's crazy. They're like,
but you know what? But you said that, but you and I always couldn't stand the Yankees. Like, I don't have that. No, but my point is I don't have that hatred or anger towards the Dodgers, because I think the Dodgers, there's a difference. Like, to me, it's like the Dodgers, they're more about developing talent too. Like, whereas the Yankees were more so like, not that they didn't have homegrown talent, but the Yankees were those teams that just went and tried to buy a World Series.
Well, see, I'm disagreeing with you here. I'm disagreeing. That's not true. The Yankees' core was homegrown. Jeter, Mariano, Pettit, Posada. I mean, all these guys. But yes, they had the same model as the Dodgers, and they brought in all this talent around them. Dodgers are the same thing. The reason I don't hate the Dodgers as much is the Dodgers are doing it, even though they are paying a lot more money than teams that are not paying anything like Tampa. The Tampas are not like the norm, like in Major League Baseball back when the Yankees were doing it. When the Yankees were doing it, they were doubling the payroll of the second highest payroll. Like the Yankees would have like a $200 million payroll, and the Red Sox would have the second highest payroll, like $110 million. And then everybody else was like below $100 million. So, I mean, it has become more of a competitive balance as far as payrolls, but don't act for 1 minute that the Dodgers are doing anything different than the Yankees. It's just not as glaring, and it's probably why I don't hate them as much.
Well, maybe
definitely
maybe that's kind of what I meant. But
and I think my mom here, who commented, is talking about Trevor Bauer, what he did.
Well, she is, and that's
definitely comment came a little late. But
it's something that should happen. I agree with her. I mean, I don't know what the contracts read, but I think the problem is that like Major League Baseball, all they do is they're putting him on like this like extended leave. Like they haven't like
but as part of the collective bargaining agreement, I'd have to look into it. I think he would end up losing his pay.
Well, there's probably
because it's due process still has to take place. So he's on a paid administrative leave. It doesn't mean he's going to get all his money, I'm sure.
Yeah, so there's verbiage in the contract, I'm sure. You're right.
Well, no, they probably would have bargaining agreement. I actually was reading about it earlier. I wouldn't have time to go through it on the show live. But yes, there's something in the collective bargaining agreement about domestic issues, that he would lose his pay. So yes, that
makes sense.
Anyway, let's move on, dude. Big news this week. David Lee Roth, the man, the myth, the legend, has announced he will be retiring after his upcoming shows. I guess it doesn't come as a surprise. He's pushing 70. And obviously with the passing of Edward Van Halen just about a year ago today, Van Halen is done. So it's the end of an era. It's the end of an era. I'm sad, but at the same time, like I said, I expected it. And Dave's not what he used to be. Sammy Hagar, on the other hand, I think could go on forever. He just seems like he doesn't age, vocally even. I mean, he could still sing like crazy. Dave is just not what he was. We all know that. Dave was the golden god. He doesn't have the look. He doesn't have the sound. He doesn't have any of it anymore. And it's no diss to Dave. I love him to death. But it's time, and Van Halen's done. But, on this note, Jay, I want to plug. We got motivated. We got inspired. We have a blog coming out any day now. It's going to be on our website, www.sportsandmetal.com, where we're ranking the entire Van Halen catalog. We're ranking all their albums from first to worst. You're not going to want to miss it. Van Halen blog, www.sportsandmetal.com. Anyway, is there anything you wanted to add here, Jay, with Dave?
Well, I think it brings up an interesting point. Like with him retiring, do you think that the band will possibly get back together with Wolf and Sammy? Or do you think do you think it'll never happen? Do you ever foresee?
No, that's the most absurd thing I've ever heard. That will never happen. No one's ever going to play guitar in Van Halen except Eddie Van Halen, who's not around to do it.
Just curious.
I mean, people talk about Pantera reunions, and that never happened. If that would never happen, Van Halen would not happen times 1 million compared to that. No, dude. Now, here's what could happen, and it probably will. I could see in the near future a Van Halen tribute concert, kind of like the.
Well, that's kind of what I meant. I'm not saying
but not like a tour. Okay, but that wouldn't just be with Sammy. What I'm saying, you made it sound like a reunion with Sammy.
Well, I mean, like a bunch of previous members of the band maybe get back and have a show.
No, I'm not even saying that. I'm saying like kind of like the Freddie Mercury Concert for Life, where like maybe the band is all there, like you're saying, but it's not like just the band or members of the band. I'm talking like.
Well, no, that's what I mean. Like Metallica could be there, like anybody.
Yeah, everybody. Yeah, a tribute concert.
Well, that's what I meant. So like
maybe you have the rhythm section. You have, and can we stop with Wolfie? I love you, Wolf, but no, it would be Michael Anthony, Jay. It would be Michael Anthony. Michael Anthony. Michael Anthony is as integral to the Van Halen sound as Eddie Van Halen. Come on. His high harmony vocals, his bass. It was a shame and an injustice that Michael Anthony was, boxed out of the band due to whatever animosity the Van Halen brothers had for him. And, Sammy to this day loves Michael Anthony. That's why ever since then they had Chickenfoot, then they had Van Halen. Then they had Sammy Hagar, The Circle. They're still playing together now. If this happened, Wolfie could play at the show for sure. Wolfie could organize the show for sure. But Michael Anthony's got to be there. So I could see something with the rhythm section, Michael Anthony on the bass, Alex on the drums. And guess what? If Wolfie's going to do it, I could see Wolfie playing lead guitar on a lot of it. Wolfie's a tremendous guitar player. He could play Eddie's stuff. So I could see that, but I'm talking like guest musicians, like Nuno Betancourt on guitar on one song, and maybe Gary Sharon on a vocal, or Joe Elliott from Def Leppard. Something like the Freddie Mercury Concert for Life, a full-on tribute concert where the living members of Van Halen are on the stage, and there's various vocalists and guitarists plugging in. Sammy and Dave could participate. But that's what I'm talking about. The bare backbone of the band is going to be, Michael Anthony and Alex and Wolfie in whatever role. But Michael Anthony's got to be there. But that's what I could see happening.
Well, and I kind of do have another question, because I always kind of think of this, and I know, once again, I know you're not a list guy per se, but with David Lee Roth retiring, where would you rank him in the top? Would he be in your top 5 frontmen in metal of all time at this point? Now he's retiring.
Well,
so,
dude, you're asking me a question that to me is a no-brainer answer. First of all, I'm not even just going to do the disservice of saying top 5 frontmen in metal. I would say top 5 frontmen in rock and roll history. And it has nothing to do with being the greatest vocalist, because Dave wasn't and isn't the greatest vocalist, but he is the quintessential frontman. David Lee Roth defined what a frontman was, and will be in rock and metal. He was the golden god. He had those attributes that Robert Plant had from Led Zeppelin, the blonde hair, the thin body, the hip hugging pants, but he took it to the next level. He was like a black belt in karate. He had the ripped abs. He had sex appeal, and he had like the personality of a game show host. He had acrobatic moves on the stage. There was something dangerous about him as well. Dude, whether it's Vince Neil, any frontman you could think of that came after took something from David Lee Roth.
He's like the Ric Flair. He's like the Ric Flair of frontmen. That's what he reminds me of. Ric Flair, like the energy that he has, like, you know what I mean? Like the passion that he has. And I got to agree with you. Honestly, like, I'm a guy that kind of came to the party late. Like, I know you used to always tell me, like, years ago, dude, you got to get more into Van Halen. You got to get more into them. It was never that I didn't like them. Obviously, Eddie Van Halen is a freaking god. Like, we know that. But I just kind of was never really, like, a super huge fan. But the more that I've dived into their albums and kind of, working on this project with you, like, there's nobody that compares, like, on any level. You're right. I think David Lee Roth is, as he's the quintessential front man, Eddie Van Halen's the quintessential guitarist in my mind.
It's true. You take the guitar playing Eddie and you take Dave. We talk about Eddie all the time. Dave is the frontman what Eddie is to lead guitar players in the genre. Every guitar player that came after Eddie took something from Eddie, and every frontman that came after Dave took something from Dave. That's how important Van Halen is and was and will be to the canon of rock and roll.
Well, to music in general, I think.
What's that?
The music in general.
Music in general, all genres. There's a reason Michael Jackson needed Eddie Van Halen to play the guitar solo on Beat It, because Michael Jackson was the biggest pop star in the world, about to put the biggest pop album out of all time, and he needed the biggest rock star of all time at the time on his album. That's what he needed. And the cool thing about it is Eddie didn't even take a credit on the record. Eddie just went and did it. And Eddie went into that studio and he recorded that solo in like 5 minutes.
By the way,
the story goes, Eddie, when he first heard the demos, couldn't figure out how he was going to solo over it. Quincy Jones, Michael Jackson, whoever was involved with that record, they played the demos for Eddie, and he's in the studio, and all they had was like the all that was the whole thing. So Eddie's like, how am I going to solo over this? So Eddie's like, you guys need a bridge. Eddie's the one that came out with the bridge where it goes dun, 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 and then Eddie comes in. The rest is history. So I mean, Eddie like has a co-writing credit, but he never took the credit. He helped compose the track, put the solo to it. Dude, that's how you take Beat It. That sums up the biggest stars of the era in one song. There's a reason that like Michael J. Fox emulated the whole thing in that scene in Back to the Future, which I'm going to kind of reference Back to the Future in that Van Halen blog, by the way. Not the scene where he's at the, Enchantment Under the Sea dance, basically riffing on Johnny B. Good like Eddie Van Halen, but another scene in the movie. No spoilers. Read the blog, www.sportsandmetal.com. Van Halen blog coming up. You're not going to want to miss this. Not going to want to miss it.
But by the way, that is my favorite solo of all time.
That's one of mine too, dude.
It is mine.
And when you hear how Eddie just wrote it in 5 minutes and just came in and played it and left, and he's like,
dude, every time I hear that solo, not only do I get chills, I almost feel like it's just like it never gets old. Like it's just
you
amazing.
Can hear it over and over on.
And you're right. It was Michael Jackson, probably, in my opinion, the biggest icon of all time. And David Lee Roth, Eddie Van Halen as guitarist, best guitarist of all time. I mean, together, it's like magic.
Oh, it was magic. Absolutely.
It is. It's just absolutely off the charts.
Speaking, you were talking about being late to the party. Dude, I could give an anecdote right here, a true story. I remember, at least when I first knew you were getting into Van Halen, I was into Van Halen from when we were little. I remember, when we would play baseball back in, 84, so we were, 8 years old. We would go out and play baseball, and I'd have my little boom box, and I'd be playing fucking Panama and shit and Jump, because 1984 that record was out. So I remember that, but I remember I remember you starting to really crank Van Halen when you were delivering pizzas in 92, and I remember you had For Unlawful Carnal Knowledge on fucking repeat in the car. That's when I remember you starting to. So you were a Van Hagar guy first. You were a Van Hagar, and then you went back.
And it doesn't mean that I don't appreciate it.
No, it's just where you were introduced.
To this day, I still prefer Van Hagar only because I think Sammy Hagar's voice is just so much better.
Yeah, it's different. I mean, if you like more, more of a pop sheen and longer songs and the introduction of the keyboards, here's the thing. I love them both. I used to be very biased to the Dave stuff, but as I've gotten older, I've learned to appreciate the Sammy stuff more and more. And honestly, as performers now, I would take Sammy over Dave in a heartbeat. So when I'm talking about Dave, I'm talking about at that time, what he meant at the time. But I know nothing. This just shows the greatness of Van Halen, that they have a whole second era that's ungodly good, and how great Sammy Hagar is. Think about it.
I mean, yeah, how many bands could say that?
AC/DC, that's about it.
AC/DC and Van Halen, that's probably that's the only two. I mean,
that's it.
I don't know any others.
Nope, that is it. That can pull off the lead singer switch when you had iconic original.
On that level. Obviously Iron Maiden.
AC/DC, Bon Scott, an ultimate icon, right? And then what do? He dies, you bring in Brian Johnson, and you only put out the biggest hard rock album of all time, Back in Black. What? What kind of statement is that? The biggest. So that's what we're talking about. That's the level of greatness that we're talking about. So that's all I got to say. That's all I got to say.
Good luck, David, in the future. Whatever you do.
Your retirement, David.
He'll probably come out with his own. He probably already has his own beer line or something. But how these guys retire off in the sunset, and then he'll probably have a podcast. He'll be like us.
Yeah, we know Dave. He's already all over the place.
He'll be doing something.
He's got comic book art that he puts on Instagram. He's a real artsy guy.
Maybe he'll be selling. Maybe he'll be selling cars.
He could be. He's got that. Personality. Mom, Queen never replaced their front man.
Well, yeah, she's talking about iconic bands.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on. Picks of the week, Jay.
Yes. So who's going first this week?
You know what? I'll go first just because I'm kind of riffing right now. Dude, so I almost feel like I might have two right now because I was kind of going towards one because of, Van Halen doing the blog and David Lee Roth, announcing his retirement. But then when we came up with the title for tonight's episode, Made of Metal, it kind of got me thinking of Rob Halford. You know, his one of his albums in his band Halford is called Made of Metal. So it got me thinking. So this is the one I ultimately chose. This is my pick of the week. Halford's Live Insurrection.
Oh.
Dude, have you? It's my favorite live albums, and I shouldn't reveal them because they'll probably be future picks of the week. But like, I remember like in the early '90s when the really slickly produced live albums became a big thing. Ozzy had Live and Loud. Van Halen had Live Right Here, Right Now. Poison had Swallow This Live. I mean, I was just eating these live records up. I don't think I loved the live record as much as those ones until Halford Live Insurrection came out. And the reason I love it so much is because not only is the production phenomenal, Rob Halford's voice never sounded better than it sounds on Live Insurrection. But the other thing I love about it is the track listing. You're not going to find a mix of Fight, Halford, and Judas Priest on one single record like you're going to find on Live Insurrection, and the quality of the performances. Dude, you have Fight, Into the Pit, Fight, Nailed to the Gun. Then you have the Light Comes Out of Black song, which was the one he did with Bruce Dickinson. But on top of that, then you have all this classic Priest. And my highlight of that, and I recommend anybody listen to it if you haven't, is listen to the version of Beyond the Realms of Death on Live Insurrection, the Judas Priest classic ballad. Dude, it gives me goosebumps. Rob Halford's voice sounds more powerful than I've ever heard it sound. It just takes the original version and just brings it to a whole nother level because of the modern production. And it sounds as good as like a studio version, except with that background crowd noise. It's unfucking real. So anyway, that's my pick of the week. Rob Halford's Live Insurrection, the metal god himself. But you know what? I said I was thinking of another one, so I'll just throw it out there. In light of Van Halen, in light of David Lee Roth retiring, dude, the album did very well, but it's like I think it's better than people give it credit for. If you haven't listened to it, it's the last Van Halen album that they ever recorded in 2012. It was the album where David Lee Roth returned to the band. It's a different kind of truth. Dude, it's some of the most insane guitar playing in the history of Eddie's career. He's riffing like crazy. It's arguably their heaviest album. It's awesome. All the songs pretty much are like all stuff from like the Vaults. Eddie said they had no intentions of doing an album when they first reunited with David Lee Roth in 2007. But, they were doing the tour with Wolfgang Van Halen, Eddie's son. And by 2009, Wolfgang was really like pumped up about the idea of doing a new Van Halen record. So he kind of talked Eddie into it, and they did it. And Wolfgang was going through all the old demos, and he pulled out the old demos of the song that became She's the Woman, Out of Space, a lot of these tracks. So a lot of these tracks date back to the 70s, some before the first Van Halen album ever came out. So it's really fucking awesome. And it's the last Van Halen album we're ever going to hear. So that's my other pick of the week, Van Halen, A Different Kind of Truth. So I had two this week, dude.
Dude, you nailed both of them. I mean, I both great albums. I mean, Insurrection, just going back to that, like, I think that just, as you said, David Lee Roth's kind of the quintessential frontman. To me, the quintessential vocalist. I know a lot of people, I'm not dissing on Robert Plant, but I'm just saying what Rob Halford's
You
been
don't
able
have to explain yourself all the time. Rob Halford's fucking awesome, dude.
to me is absolutely, in my mind, my favorite vocalist of all time. I mean, his range, and even to this day, I mean, I heard a concert 2 weeks ago, his voice, he's still belting it out like better than 25-year-olds, dude.
Oh, dude.
Like, it's ridiculous, like, what he can do. So,
he's the quintessential. Okay, if David Lee Roth is like you kind of were hinting at, if David Lee Roth is the quintessential frontman, Rob Halford is the quintessential heavy metal lead vocalist. And we'll both agree on that every day. And twice on Sunday.
And speaking of that, so my pick of the week is a Judas Priest album.
Awesome. Made of Metal.
Well, obviously when we do these shows, you kind of try to link the title or whatever. There's always a reason. We've said that in the past, and it never changes. So, but to me, my pick of the week is actually an album. It's kind of obscure in Judas Priest's catalog, and it's an album that actually gets a lot of flack and really dissed. But I gotta be honest, when this record first came out, I was actually a huge fan. And I kind of got soured on it because I played it out. But I went back and I listened to it today. And this album is absolutely awesome if you like the style of music. It's a little bit different. It's not necessarily Judas Priest went out of their comfort zone. It's not Painkiller, okay? But my pick of the week is Nostradamus.
Okay. Very
Came out in
polarizing record.
2008. Yes, and it was really a challenging record. Like they even said, like they challenged themselves because they kind of did go out of their comfort zone. Like there's a lot of synthesizer on the record, a lot of keyboards. But to me, I've always been, you know me, I'm that, I know you call it Dungeons and Dragons type music, with like Iron Maiden. This record kind of has that feel, but it's just like, it's one of those albums, like you could play it from start to finish and just like chill. Like there's actually a lot of songs that like have like piano and they're like really ballady. Like,
yeah.
And it just kind of goes,
It's an opera. It's basically a rock opera. It's a rock
It pretty much is, yes. I mean, but there's some real heavy-ass tracks on the record. My favorite is track 2, which is Prophecy. It's the most famous one. It's the one they use in all their shows. Obviously the chorus is, I am Nostradamus.
Yep.
You see Halford with his friggin' like Nostradamus, like he has the cape and everything. But I just love everything about the album. Like if you read the lyrics too, like it tells the story of Nostradamus. Like, and that's what's cool about concept albums, like that there's more to it than just the music. But when you put it all together, that's why it's my pick of the week. It's just an album that really a lot of people blast it. Like even Judas Priest fans, like, they'll say, oh, that album sucks. And I don't understand why. And I guess I understand because the diehards, they want,
they want what they expect from Priest, yeah.
But to me, like, and you and I have always agreed, like, I love Turbo Lover. Like, that's like a friggin', almost like a glam metal album.
Turbo, I like it a lot. But when you hear Priest do Turbo Lover live now, oh my God, without all the 80s synth, it's unbelievable. Anybody who has the opportunity, go on YouTube, check out like a recent performance with Richie Faulkner. Check out a recent performance of Priest doing Turbo Lover, dude. It's heavy live, and they get the whole crowd singing along. It's actually one of my favorite live Priest tracks, Turbo Lover. Much better than the album because it doesn't have all the 80s synth stuff.
No, but even so, I still love that record. Like
I love it. I love it.
That you and I say like kind of gets slept on in their catalog. Like when speaking of the band, so that's my pick of the week. Nostradamus. You can get it on Amazon, iTunes, all the Spotify's. But check out.
Or you can go buy the hard copy.
Well,
get a CD in your hand.
I would advise you to do that because
look at the artwork.
Being the concept album that it is, it has like a lot of cool stuff with like Nostradamus and like the books and stuff that he had written and like the little symbols and stuff. So it's really cool. That's my pick of the week. Check it out. Check out Aaron's picks of the week. And anyway,
that's all I got on the picks. I know you have something you want to plug.
I do.
Tonight at 9 p.m., right?
Yeah, so big news. We've been saying it and we've been promoting it on social media, but I'm really excited about this. It's kind of a collaboration project with Don Conway from Drunk on Broad. It's basically going to be under their umbrella. It's called Drunk on Ice. What a cool name, right, for a hockey podcast.
Yeah.
I mean, so basically we're going to be covering, flyers, but it's not going to just be local. Like we'll do some, national, NHL stuff. So I'm really excited. I'm looking forward to it. It's something different for me, obviously, sports and metal, but this is more of a, kind of focused in on one sport type podcast. And, I'm a diehard hockey guy, so I'm really looking forward to it and spreading my wings. So
and that's tonight at 9 p.m.
Yeah, and almost an hour. So
yeah, so Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all of it. Check it out. Drunk on Ice tonight at 9. Anyway, Jay, it's been a great show. As always, I had a blast. We hope everybody out there enjoyed it. Everybody, don't forget, once again, check out our sponsor at Lots of Rain, LA-TOURAINE.com. Use our promo code S&M and receive 10% off your purchase. Until next time, rock on.
Peace out.
And that's our show. Tune in next time for more Sports and Metal with Jason Voorhees and Aaron Savage. Ooh, yeah. Got something to say? Hit us up at sportsandmetal0423 at yahoo.com or on